Minister Narendra Modi's decision to ban high-value notes effectively canceled 86% of cash in circulation. And demonetization was intended to combat corruption and tax evasion, but the hardest hit so far have been the small businesses, the shop owners, and basic industries that employ more than 90% of Indian workers. Kathleen Hays joins us now with the CEO of MoneyOnMobile, India's largest mobile phone-based payments network, to look at what's next for demonetization and his company. Kathleen.
Yvonne, thank you so much. We're so very happy to welcome Harold Montgomery to our New York studio this evening. 5 years as the CEO of MoneyOnMobile, a company that, 6 years, a company that's been operating for 5 years in India.
Yeah, right.
Harold, what a time to have gotten into India, because demonetization has occurred. It has aroused a great debate in India. Critics say that Modi is out of touch with the reality in India. There are winners, like money launderers, who earn some big commissions as people tried to change those large notes into bank deposits. And then there's the utterly devastated, as one Indian expert puts it, who include the laid-off day laborers and the small family farmers. Is that a legitimate criticism?
This is a sweeping policy measure, Kathleen, the like of which many people have never seen in their lives. You're talking about a single decision that affects 1.2 billion people. Are there winners and losers? Sure there are. And I think, generally speaking, you got it right. The money changers made a killing on this deal. The electronic payments companies like mine are doing very well out of it because there's a drive to go digital on everything. And unfortunately, the farmers in the fields for whom commerce has come to a halt are suffering badly. Small shopkeepers who operate entirely in cash are suffering rather badly on this. Jewelry stores have really initially had a surge of business, but then businesses really collapsed for those as well. So there definitely are losers throughout the economy.
Well, you know, the Reserve Bank of India released its minutes on Wednesday, and they show that one of the main reasons Governor Patel, his colleagues, surprised the markets and didn't cut the key rate is because they're waiting to see the impact of demonetization on the Indian economy. They say it will be temporary. Do you agree?
The decision was only announced on November 8th, and it was a surprise to everyone, I think, including the RBI. It was a very tightly kept secret. So we're about 6 weeks or so into demonetization that ends on December 30th. At least that's the Prime Minister's edict so far. So I think the RBI is right to take a cautionary stance on this. Raising interest rates has a lot of other knock-on effects, as you might guess, and it may or may not be helpful in the case of getting over this. Will the effects be temporary? I think the effects will ripple through the economy for quite some time. You're going to have crops that rot in the fields and don't make it to market. Could that mean there's pressure on food prices later? Could it mean there are food shortages locally later? It's entirely possible. So I think the effects will ripple through the economy for at least a quarter or two.
Our Bloomberg intelligence team in India put out an interesting report that sort of backs up Governor Patel's view, and particularly they looked at data on credit card transactions. We have a chart which shows that they have been surging. Now, credit card payments only make up about 3% of transactions. How much difference can this make?
It's a great question. There are about 20 to 25 million credit cards in India, again, for a population of 1.2 billion. So it's a very small number. So, of course, they accelerated during this period because for many people it was the only way you could transact at a retail level. Is it sustainable? I'm not sure we know that. We'll only know that a year from now. I tend to doubt that it's sustainable. Credit cards are quite expensive in the Indian context. The retailers don't prefer them. It's generally driven by consumer choice. So we'll see how this moves the needle on digital transactions in general, including but not limited to credit card.
Well, you have a mobile payment system,
right?
But this is a country where only 1 in 4 people has access to the internet. So how can this demonetization is taken away? How can you penetrate this market?
Our system operates on SMS text messages, and we operate through over 300,000 points of presence in India, small retail locations, neighborhood convenience stores, that kind of thing. People deposit cash, it goes into our system, it becomes digital. They use text messages off a simple feature phone.
So it doesn't have to be a smartphone?
We're not internet dependent and we're not smartphone dependent. So there's not that many smartphones in India, and as you pointed out, internet penetration is quite low relative to world standards. So we think that an SMS-based cloud-based system that can be operated quite simply at the street level is really the answer for moving people into digital transactions. With or without a bank account, it doesn't matter.
But the average Indian is making, what, something like the U.S. equivalent of $4 a day. How
Correct.
much are you charging them? Actually, you're not. I don't understand. How does the business model work? How do you make money ultimately?
Interestingly, the less money you make, the more what we call transaction intensive you are, the more frequently you transact. The trade-off is these are very small numbers. You may have seen retailers who say no credit card under $10, right? And that's because the processing fees are higher than the profit margin on the transaction. That's not true in our case. We charge a very small amount, typically funded by the merchant. So for mobile phone recharge, for example, prepaid mobile phone, we're paid a percentage by the mobile phone company, and we use that. It's actually free to the consumer. So they're very small transactions, but we do a lot of them, and we get a percentage on almost everything that goes through our pipe.
Your share price, it's down from the 2016 highs. This sounds like a great system. It sounds like a great deal. Investors not impressed yet.
Our company is a microcap company traded in the United States, and I think the awareness of the Indian situation in the U.S. is relatively low. Most U.S. investors have been focused on China. The attention is just now turning to India, and the demonetization is a very unusual and rare event that Americans are having a little trouble grasping. It does represent a giant growth opportunity for our company, however.
So does this portend, this demonetization by Prime Minister Modi, a global trend? Is that where the world is heading?
Interestingly, I think it probably does. You may have seen a move that happened in Venezuela where the government demonetized the 100 Bolivar note. I think they had their own motivations for doing that. I think you may see other governments, even the United States government has talked about taking the $100 bill out of circulation because typically it's not used in everyday commerce. It's generally a reservoir of value for illegal trade.
How about the Indian government? Are they going to continue this drive towards pushing everybody towards digital, towards mobile?
I do think so. The Indian government has made a number of infrastructure investments around a universal bill payment system, a universal account clearing system that we operate with as well and distribute on their behalf. So I think this is absolutely a long-term move toward digital transactions and taking cash out of the economy.
So is it a political liability for Prime Minister Modi? There's elections next year for
It'll be
Parliament.
very interesting to see what the elections are in Uttar Pradesh and other large states that come up early in 2017. We'll find out what the political backlash is. India is a country that's two-thirds rural, and the rural population's been very hard hit and, frankly, confused. The people I've spoken with on my trips to India about this are having a little bit of trouble understanding what really happened here. That's two-thirds of the vote. We'll find out what the political effect is on Prime Minister Modi.
We certainly will. Harold Montgomery, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Kathleen.
CEO of Money on Mobile. Betty, we learned a little bit